So, in this series of lessons, we're going to show you how you can get to grips with SEO and make it work for you to build your business, whether online or offline. So in the first lesson, we looked at how SEO works. Then we looked at the breakdown of a site and which bits work best. In lesson 3, we looked at images. The last lesson, we looked at server speeds and some of the technical setups. But in this one, we're going to look at SEO history, what used to work and what you can no longer do. And a little bit, there's a couple of funny ones in there where people have got it wrong. Lesson 6, we're going to look at how to SEO a site and a page. Lesson 7, building powerful pyramids. Lesson 8 is going to be about the perfect landing page in action. So let's move on. Let's go straight away to lesson 5, SEO history. So I think, in summary, to help us understand what you can do to improve your site's ranking, it makes sense to look backwards and understand what you can't do. So let's have a look at what you can't do anymore, because there's always going to be people who try and push it too hard, and if you do, you're in danger of completely breaking your site. So we're going to look at the very first search engine. We're then going to look at what happened to spammy link building. We're going to look at scraping content. We're going to look at age domains and using 301s. Link profiling, which used to be very prevalent. Cloaking, which again was very prevalent. So let's look back for a moment and enjoy the life of an SEO in days gone by. So in the old days, with the very first search engine, it was easy. So the first web search engine, this is the one, web crawler, it was developed by a guy called Brian Pinkerton in 1994. It's not very long ago, is it really, but it was developed there. And it could deliver the top 25 websites. That's it. It wasn't absolutely massive, but it was a very clever little tool. And the way it worked was it literally looked for words that appeared on the page, and you could submit your own pages to the database. So you could again trick your way to the top very easy. Life was quite simple back then. And then along came Google in 1998, and this was one of their first pages, so you can see pretty much what it looked like when it was in beta form. Google invented their own PageRank system, and it said it was going to more accurately rank pages. PageRank then looked at links that came into the site to help determine its ranking. So it was based on the scientific principle that more peer reviews and citations in scientific articles implied a paper was more authoritative. So if you wrote a paper and it was in Nature and it was cited by Nature, then Nature wouldn't actually cite it unless they thought it was absolutely and utterly trustworthy. And that's really where Google's built their first principle. But in doing so, it also gave birth to link building. So that was why link building worked so well initially. You could build links from authoritative sites, and Google then thought, well, it must be authoritative, it must be a trusted site because it's been peer reviewed on strong sites. So it's worth remembering that search engines used to be edited by humans. In the old days they were genuinely edited by humans, but now it's all down to their spiders. And any algorithm, however clever, can be cracked. And the sites you want to win help to the top of the search if you do things right. However, it's also important to note that Google spiders are incredibly fast these days. It used to take months to roll out an algorithm change, and this can now happen overnight. So if you do anything on your sites from this particular lesson, you are definitely running the risk of being kicked from the search altogether. So you have to be really careful. Please don't do any of these things. I'm showing you them as a reason not to do them. So Google slowly became too predictable. And then there was a little craze of Google bombing that happened for a little while. So when you put a search term into Google, something unexpected could come out. So this was one very famous one where if you typed in completely wrong into Google, the pictures, every single one of the results was a picture of the US politician Mitt Romney. Google claimed it had ranked for this term as he'd said it in a speech in 2012 when he was a presidential candidate, and his name being close to the search term made it rank so highly. But I suspect foul play. There was a previous effort in the mid-2000s to get George W. Bush to rank for the term miserable failure. And as we saw in lesson 1, Google's named algorithm updates were all designed to try and prevent this sort of fraudulent trickery to get the wrong pages to the top for the right search terms. And then came spammy link building. Spammy link building was where you build loads of links from different sites. It was a sure way to get yourself ranked fast. Links from high page ranked sites were absolutely brilliant. So if you could buy a .edu link, so from a university or from one of the major newspapers, then you would get, your site would increase, or would increase in ranking. But you could get links from article sites, networks of guest blogging sites, other semi-fake domains you owned. You could do links from anywhere, sort of counted. Thousands of links was a good thing. And comments in blogs worked well and could be bought in their thousands for almost no money. $5 you could buy 10,000 links, and it was amazing at the time. You could actually just blast a site to the top. But one of the super tricks was site-wide links, where the link came back from a website footer. So that way every time someone refreshed a page or hit that page, it was classed as a new link. Almost every WordPress theme used to use this with a link back to the theme designers. But Penguin, the Google algorithm we covered in the first lesson here, pretty much wiped that out and overnight. So if a site looked like it was trying too hard or had a completely unnatural link pattern, like 20,000 links coming from site-wide footers, it was probably gaming the system and got kicked from the search. Now, you would have thought some of the biggest companies in the world would actually be above that. They wouldn't fall into that silly trap. But here's an example of when Expedia got it completely wrong. So in 2014, so again very recently, they got hit with a massive ranking penalty. And what they'd done is they'd embedded the word hotels in more than 15,000 times as an anchor text on websites they'd shared with their partners to create links back to Expedia's main website. So these are called OTAs, online travel agencies, who are using Expedia's engine to actually book holidays. So in one example, which is called vngarden.com, it's a website about traveling to Vietnam. At the bottom of the page it says designed by the Expedia hotels team, and you can see there the link is underneath the word hotels, and the word hotels links to the hotel section of Expedia's main website. This had happened 15,000 times, and Google basically caught them. So in that time, immediately this was found, Expedia's website lost 25% of its visibility in Google, which must mean at least the same again in lost traffic. They suffered a 4% loss in share price of its stock almost overnight. And it took over 3 months for them to recover from the penalty. So I'm pretty sure that someone must have been sacked for that. Scraping content. This was the next big one. There was a few ways this worked. If you needed to write an article to put on a page, so you could add some links into it, you could do it the hard way, or you could just steal it from another site, often without even crediting them. This was when Google was much slower to index pages, so they could even rank higher than you for your content. That was what was the most disgraceful thing about it. A cruder version, which we used to use occasionally, was you would actually scrape someone else's copy, you'd use Google Translate to translate it into French or German, and then you take the copy and then you translate it back. It made absolutely awful text, but the article had some content about the right subject, so it was basically usable, and then you could build a couple of links through it. Google's quality and relevance updates took these pages out completely too. They worked out what was going on. The pages were unreadable, so they weren't going to rank. So you can still use this trick to a degree, but one of the pieces of software I've been using to do it is called Articulo, which uses artificial intelligence to actually rewrite some of the text. It writes it quite well. You can do that, but it's still not perfect. You'll still actually need to improve it and make it more legible yourself. The next big trick, which was really the SEO super secret, was using 301s. So these are redirecting old sites into your site. And this was their incredible trick. So when you appointed an SEO agency to come in and work for you, they'd nearly always charge you a mobilization fee. They said, okay, we want $1,000 to get going. And what they do is they use that $1,000 to buy up some relevant age domains. So if you were trying to be found for a marketing site, they would buy some old marketing age domains which used to have marketing websites on them, and then they would go to the web archive and they would restore, so they'd actually bring back and restore the websites onto those aged domains. And then they would use 301 redirects into your site, which would give you an instant uplift in the rankings. It was that simple. So old sites scrape back up, nice old domains, put a couple of links from there, redirect the entire site into your site, and you would get a massive uplift in your rankings. And they almost didn't have to do anything else to give your site a massive jump. And the worst of all was that if you stopped paying them, they would just cut the 301s to your site, and it would lose you loads of Google juice, and you'd plummet again. It was that easy. So you'd be paying them however many hundreds and thousands of pounds a month, and that's all they had to do was to get you to the top. But Google again cut that out pretty much. Now, aged domains used to be huge. Google have claimed that links from your aged domains no longer has the ranking power that it did, but still there is no doubt in my mind that if your domain has been around for many years, it will be easier to get it to rank. It's always harder to get a brand new site to rank as highly as one of the old ones. But also there's some evidence that if you book your domain name for as long as possible in the future, you'll get a boost too. So if you can, buy it up for the next 10 years and you will find you'll get an instant 5% uplift in the way your site ranks. But I think this is more to do with trust than anything. So you've been around for a long time, and by buying it up for a long time ahead or booking your domain for a long time ahead, you're showing that you intend to be around for many more years to come. And again, what could show trust more clearly than that to Google? The next big one was DOFOLLOW versus NOFOLLOW links. This was introduced in 2005, where in the old days all links were followed, so all juice came through those links. So a link from a big site to your little site, all of that link juice came down. But then in 2005 they introduced NOFOLLOW links, which allowed them to combat blog spam, which was effectively loads of people building links all over the place. Yahoo and MSN followed, so that pretty much closed the market for those people doing it. So now what happens is most comments on blogs are NOFOLLOW. So even if you think you're adding weight to your page rank by link building in blog comments, it's lost its link value altogether. I think there's still probably some relevance value in there, but there's definitely no sort of like super link power coming in. And again, in the old days, links from Wikipedia used to become super power followed links, but they're now NOFOLLOW as well. But again, your site will still be better if you have links from Wikipedia because of the credibility of it, even if there's not that sort of huge link juice that comes from it. But it used to be able to be used for PageRank, what's called PageRank sculpting. So what you could do is you could turn a load of sites into NOFOLLOW ones, so you could just then leave the one massive great link coming in, and you would have the page rank to the most important pages on your site by doing that. And this was removed in 2008 by Google when they announced that no following a link no longer passes the remaining Google juice through the DOFOLLOW links. I know that's a bit confusing, so it might need a bit more explanation. But effectively what you could do is you could use NOFOLLOWs and DOFOLLOWs to actually switch either all of the Google juice into one big link or all of the Google juice into one big page. Whereas now you can't really do that. A link is a link. And there's not that many links now that pass juice unless you... there's not many links that are usably passing juice. Now the next one, this was a relatively new one on me, but this was called cloaking. Now BMW were outed in 2006 for this, and they were the first to be properly publicly outed for it. And this is the practice of where you show a totally different page to the search engines to that seen by the general public. So that's what the page actually looked like to the search engine, and that's what the page looked like to the general public. So you can see there that on the left the one is absolutely crammed with information, crammed with text, so it was bound to rank more highly, whereas the one on the right didn't look anything like that at all. So you're really not allowed to do that anymore. So that's called cloaking. That's again banned now. The next trick was that Google then introduced, because they were asking people to get rid of all of these dodgy links, they introduced a tool which was the disavow tool, which came in 2012. This was on the verge of Google being helpful. They said, if you've built naughty links in the past, we're going to give you the wherewithal now to get rid of them, to actually own up, shake them off. So if we're going to give you a tool, use it, because lots of people had lots of spammy links. So it allowed you to disown any links that were considered spammy coming into your site. But what they didn't tell you was which links they were referring to. They just said, you've got spammy links, you need to get rid of them. So the only way to be sure was to take out huge numbers of them. And then Google did it for you. And I'm not sure whether this is Penguin or Panda. But this was one of the sites that is quite an interesting one. Look, so if you look here, it's got this is on Majestic, the Majestic SEO tool. It's got a trust flow score of 9, which is really quite low. Citation score of 23, which is okay. The external backlinks here, there's 27,600 backlinks coming from 993 domains, which is quite a lot of links, or quite a lot of domains. So they'd had an SEO agency working for them for 10 years building links, and it was quite successful. They were ranking quite highly. But Google then decided they were going to take out any links if they considered them low grade. So as you can see there, yeah, 27,000 blah blah from 993 domains. And then Google decided overnight, right, we don't like any of those. So they took out hundreds. So now this site has only got 1,980 links, 81 referring domains, yet the trust flow has gone from 9 to 24. So the citation flow stayed the same, but the trust flow score has gone through the roof. It's now much more trusted because it's got less links. So their trust flow went up a lot by taking out links. So that showed that all of the work their SEO agency had done in the previous 10 years had been a total waste. It hadn't at the time, it got them to the top, but the only way they were going to stay at the top was by Google removing all those links for them. So any SEO agency that tells you they'll link build and improve your site trust flow, which is a really important score, is probably lying or completely deluded. So be very careful about link building, but we will go on to that in a bit more detail in one of the later ones. So that's it for part 5 of the SEO. All the things that used to work easily have basically been removed or black hatted, so there's no shortcuts anymore. The only solution is to build great sites full of engaging content with excellent user experience and market the content systematically and carefully. Remember, there's 1 million people on LinkedIn with SEO in their title. They can't all be as good as us. So stick to the rules, build great sites and manage them well. That's the only shortcut, is just to do things right. Now in lesson 6 we're going to look at a step-by-step guide to SEOing a page from scratch. And so we will see you there. Thank you.